Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world.
Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Christina.
Today, we're talking about self-sabotage and limiting beliefs. We decided to do this since we've been talking about manifestation, the reticular activating system, things like the law of attraction, the law of assumption, and this comes up because it can interfere with manifestation and these laws.
Neuroplasticity.
Christina's going to talk about some definitions. I see cognitive behavioral therapy. And in segment 2, I'm going to go a little bit into some personal experience, how humility comes into the conversation, somatics, and some astrological connections. And then at the very end, we have some goddesses bringing us the messages from the universe.
I'm starting off with some definitions because I've used both of these phrases, self-sabotage and limiting beliefs. But just like all things, we should know what we're talking about. Self-limiting beliefs is a deeply ingrained thought, perception, and or state of mind. And the key to this is that it restricts you from reaching your full potential, achieving your goals, or even being happy. We need to do a podcast on just happiness. What is it? What does it mean? How do we get there? Like that whole thing. I mean, I think we've all had people say, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I just want you to be happy. What do we really know what that is and what's in our way of being happy? But the key word here with self-limiting beliefs is restriction. These beliefs are often false. No surprise there. And negative. Again, no surprise there. And this can lead to self-doubt, fear, and inaction. These self-limiting beliefs are integrated and fed to us from the moment we land on this planet. From the moment we begin to become aware of our surroundings. They're integrated from childhood to present day. You could have had a self-limiting belief that was introduced to you yesterday or this morning. We don't ever stop becoming susceptible to this. They're from our experiences, like our personal experiences, but it's also family, work. We receive these beliefs from the people around us. Strangers, people on the bus sitting next to us, everyone around us. And they're learned. We learn these self-limiting beliefs. And a lot of them aren't even our own self-limiting beliefs. They were given to us by other people. And we carry them around like they're ours. And we don't even know where they came from or the story behind it because they're not ours in the first place. So in essence, self-limiting beliefs are like mental roadblocks that prevent you from reaching your full potential and having a fulfilling, happy life. That's the definition. They often involve making false assumptions about your capabilities and the capabilities of others, your community, the whole world. And you know what these are? Labels, stereotypes, and it is constricting our ability to achieve our goals and to fulfill our dreams and wishes and be happy, because they prevent us from taking actions. They prevent us from doing anything. They cause us to avoid challenges. Here's one: procrastination and lack of self-belief. And they're in the guise of defining who you are. Why do we have to define ourselves? Is it because we need to? Well, because of the society we live in. But why do we have to define ourselves? And we live in this society, this present day society, and we are using the categories that our society has defined. And we are in a patriarchal society. So that society is feeding us the expectations and patriarchal society likes predictability, no change, or very, very, very limited change. It's very linear, forward motion, very yang energy, forward movement. And then it's very black, white, left, right, good, bad. And that's not how life works. But that is the definition set by our society. And that's where you and I live, Nicole. We live in a patriarchal society. Some of you listeners might not be living in the United States or in a patriarchal society, and you might have a very different experience, but this is our experience. And these self-limiting beliefs are preset to be downloaded upon us as children and adults. As soon as we go to school, as soon as we enter the workforce, as soon as we get married, if we choose to be married, as soon as we retire or have children, all these preset beliefs are delivered to us. And it fires me up. Before we hit record, listeners, I was like, Nicole, I'm in a terrible mood. I did not, I'm glad I know this now, but I did not enjoy this. I did not enjoy researching this. It just makes me so angry.
And I think in terms of this patriarchal culture, we are given expectations sort of in the form of a life timeline or like a narrative that we need to follow. And if you do not do those things, then again, what Christina was saying, there's good or bad, right and wrong. So if you don't follow this scripted path or what you should be doing, then you are somehow wrong and a failure. I think a lot of maybe creative people, neurodivergent people, there's a lot of people who maybe don't feel like our society's narrative includes them, because what is being almost forced upon us doesn't feel in alignment.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. And it's under the guise of, figuring out who you are, figuring out what your passions are, what you stand for, figuring out, I had another word and I just lost it. Your identity. But these classifications become really heavy to carry around, and then we don't see that it is not actually who we are, and that it's not a piece of my identity, and it's not a way for me. I don't need to introduce myself as, hello, I'm so and so, and I'm right-handed and I was born in Pennsylvania, and that becomes like part of my identity. This makes me so angry. I can't even. And I'm going to talk about more about different examples about this towards the end. That was just the definition of self-limiting beliefs. They start out as classifications, and they start out as defining yourself and identifying yourself. And sometimes they turn into something very different. What is self-sabotage? It is the act of deliberately, often unconsciously, hindering one's own success or well-being. It involves behaviors that undermine personal goals, relationships, or overall happiness. There it is again, happiness. And this happens even when we have really good intentions and we really, really, really want a different outcome, but we do it anyway. Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Because for me, it's because I think I deserve it, because I'm rewarding myself, because I hit a roadblock and I hurt my knee, so I didn't work out today. So you know what? I might as well just have extra dessert because I'm already kind of out of my routine. That is self-sabotage. And sometimes it's conscious, like you make the decision to do it or don't do it, like avoiding a task. But much of it is unintentional because we're driven by our fears and our beliefs and our past experiences. And we believe that they're true. We believe that they're a part of who we are and that's what we deserve. And it's not true. And we don't deserve it. Or not don't deserve it in a way that you don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve it. I gotta cut that out. Self-sabotage is often linked to underlying fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, and also our past experiences that have, you feeling helpless or things that make us feel less than or have low self-esteem. The other part to that too with the self-sabotage is the fear of success, the fear of acceptance, the fear of hard work. Okay, so there's lots of reasons why we self-sabotage ourselves. And it manifests in different ways. Procrastination, there it is again. Perfectionism. Oh my gosh. Relationship conflicts, avoiding self-care in all of its arenas, from eating right to exercising, self-care to getting a good night's sleep, all of it. And negative self-talk, how we talk to ourselves and about ourselves, to ourselves and to other people, and engaging in risky behaviors. And that could be addiction issues. That could be just looking for some feeling that's different from the feeling you're having. That is not the best way to get feeling. It's risky behaviors. So we've got to let go of things having to be perfect. And if they're not perfect, then we might as well not even do it, because I'm guilty of letting perfect get in the way of good. 5,000 steps a day is not 10,000 steps, but it's better than 0 steps. So just because it's not 10,000 steps doesn't mean it's not worthwhile for me to try to get as many steps in a day as I can. But if it's not good, but that's the perfect, but if it's not going to be the goal, or if it's not going to be the standard, I tell myself that it's not even worth my time then. And that is self-sabotage tied to a self-limiting belief. And there's also, once you get to your goal, what then? Will I have more responsibilities? Do I have to maintain this goal that I set for myself, which was hard work to get here anyway? But now I live in this place where every day I have to take 10,000 steps. That could be a lot overwhelming. Will it always be hard work to maintain my goals? Sometimes that could be it, that it's easier to be down here than it is to be maintaining a larger house or more income than it is to
I think that's what the fear of success sounds like, because when I've heard that in talks, oh, you could be afraid of success. Well, that's ridiculous. Who's afraid of success, right? It doesn't sound logical. Like, it doesn't to me, it didn't make sense. But those are the thoughts that I think mean I'm afraid of being successful. Is it going to be more responsibility or be really hard work to maintain my success?
Yep. Yep. Or your weight loss or your new home, more things, more responsibility, more hard work. And honestly, and you might say that you want that promotion and say that you want more income, but with that promotion comes more responsibilities and comes more work and more hours, possibly. So all the little things you keep doing, turning in your work late, showing up late for work, all these little things, and the boss is like, well, she's not really a contender for this promotion, because it's like self-sabotage. If you really wanted it, you wouldn't be doing all those little things to take yourself out of the contention for the promotion, because we're in control of it. Two big concepts, lots of heaviness around them for me. Clearly, I'm all over the place. But I do want to talk about these two other pieces of my list here in the beginning. Is how do we overcome? How do we overcome this? And it's like most of the things that Nicole and I have been talking about in this metaphysical world is we have to change our mind. And the first thing I want to say about changing your mind is that it's 100% okay to change your mind. Where did it even come from that it was a negative thing to change your mind? It made us look weak or wishy-washy, or we didn't stand by our convictions. You know what? All of that, guess where that comes from? That linear, young, patriarchal society that wants no change and extreme predictability. We're meant to change. We're meant to grow. And there's a number of reasons why we might not find it easy to change our minds. And it's a phenomenon called belief perseverance. And I've said this in the superstitions podcast, and I keep bringing it up again, is that we remember what reinforces our beliefs. Our experience in the world, we are pulling in the things that reinforce what we want to believe. We have to step out of that. It's called confirmation bias. We just keep looking for things that confirm to us that we have a self-limiting belief that I don't deserve that promotion. And so everything we see around us makes it easier for us to self-sabotage, as opposed to turning it around and realizing that you do create this reality in our minds, and all we have to do is just change our mind, change our point of view. And it's that patriarchal society. And I put a note here in my notes. It likes predictability, status quo, more of the same. It does not reward flexibility, fluidity, or change. And even right now, as we're recording this, the rhetoric of the current administration is not, like, they're not even saying the word change. They say go back to, the return to make again. Now, this is going to cause change, but they don't say the word change. They say it's a return. It's a going back. And they don't use that word. And that's all we have to do. We have to change. We have to grow. How do we do that? Self-awareness and understanding. Just the fact that you're listening to this podcast and you identify a thought that you're having right now, that's the first step. That you're like, I don't think that thought is true. I can sing. I can learn to sing. It's worthwhile for me to take voice lessons. Just the fact that you might be thinking something you believed that is actually not true, you're on your way. But then comes the work that we have to do to get there. Identify the patterns, and then you got to dig into the root causes. You got to get radical, digging down into the roots. That's this podcast. finding the foundations of it. That who told you couldn't sing? Did you ever try out for your school play, or did you ever try to do it? Or did just one day, one time when you were a kid, somebody told you to be quiet, you sounded terrible, and you took that in as, I can't sing. And you've been carrying that with you. And you don't sing in front of other people, and you don't sing in public, and you have a really quiet voice when you're singing happy birthday. You don't know that that's true. And then you have to be mindful in it. Self-awareness and understanding. And then the next step is challenging the negative thought patterns, recognizing that self-talk, questioning those assumptions, and then you got to reframe it. And that could be through journaling, through meditation. Set goals and take action. Start small, set realistic goals, develop action plans, and be patient and consistent. Because this is work. This is something that we have to work on every day. While you're doing this work of overcoming self-limiting beliefs, and while you're overcoming self-sabotaging behaviors, support your mental and physical health. Got to be self-compassionate. Seek and ask for support. Talk to people around you, or find somebody to talk to. Prioritize that self-care. You can consider therapy. You can consider alternate resources. But this is important stuff to do. And all it really is changing our mind and wanting to do it, or recognizing that you need to do it is the first step. You're already there. I just learned about cognitive behavior therapy. I have not heard of this before, although it is a very, very common tool. There's so many free resources online. There's worksheets, workbooks. People have created multiple different ways. There's a coloring book. There's kids and adult worksheets that you can print off for free, or you could see what they did and you can like make it yourself. And there's also so many books. It was beyond the number that I could count. And I'm sure that they're available in libraries, and you could probably find free downloads. So if you have no idea where to start with this, like no idea where to start, and you are just kind of on this journey by yourself, please look up, if you're not familiar with it, cognitive behavior therapy, CBT. It's a type of psychotherapy that helps individuals manage mental health conditions by addressing negative thought patterns, which are self-limiting beliefs, and unhelpful behaviors, which are self-sabotage. So it'll talk about what we're thinking and what we're doing. And it focuses on the present and aims to change those negative thought patterns and those self-sabotaging behavioral patterns. And what you're doing, identifying and changing the unhelpful thoughts, changing thinking patterns. It talks about modifying behaviors, developing coping skills, focusing on the present, and problem solving. Like I said, I did not know, I had not heard this term before. And if I did, I didn't remember it. And I felt re-energized after feeling kind of down about researching self-limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behavior. I was feeling really overwhelmed and unhappy. And then I was like, well, what is a tool that, like, how do we overcome this? And then it went down a rabbit hole of cognitive behavior therapy. And then I did an open source search, and I saw all these wonderful people sharing worksheets and workbooks. I'm sure, I didn't look on YouTube, but I'm sure there's tons of people who have shared more detailed explanations of this. So if you are curious and if you don't know where to start, that could be a tool to start there.
Our notes follow the same template or pattern. And one of the differences is you talk about changing the mind. And in my notes, I talk about using the body and somatics.
Oh, that's a new concept for me too.
And both of them are important. but that was kind of cool. I'm going to start off with just a couple of personal thoughts and experiences with limiting beliefs. In my past, limiting beliefs have sounded like, no, you go ahead.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is opting out of an opportunity and letting somebody else have that opportunity. And in my mind, I was being not competitive. And that was sort of a label that I put on myself. And I didn't see it as a restriction. I saw it almost as like a virtue. I think what is so sneaky is a limiting belief. Yes, it restricts, and yes, it is often negative, but it might not sound that way.
Yeah.
However, upon further investigation and looking at the roots of that thought, that belief that I carried, for some reason, I believed that the other person was somehow automatically more qualified than I was because I was somehow automatically deficient or lacking. After my yoga teacher training, we could audition to teach at the studio, and I opted to take the job working quote unquote behind the scenes because I didn't want to engage in the competition of auditioning for the limited number of open slots on the schedule. And in my mind, that belief of, well, I'm just not competitive. You go right ahead. I'm happy with this job sounded like a virtue. It sounded like a positive. It sounded like I was willing to take on another role so you could shine. But really, at the root were other fears that made me behave in that way.
Hmm.
Another limiting belief in my life started with I have to work really hard to blank.
Mm.
I have to work really hard to earn a living was one version of that. I have to work really hard to have the relationship I want. I did not believe that things could be easy, enjoyable. I equated working really hard with success. And you couldn't have success without working really hard, long hours. Or, I'm sure we've all heard the phrase relationships are work.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, limiting beliefs a lot of times when the word deserve or the word should comes up, I need to look at that a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Limiting beliefs have made me shrink energetically. So, that example where I did not audition to teach yoga, I was shrinking myself. Where I've had to work really hard to have these things, I've given up self care, hobbies, friendships. I have let those things in my life shrink so that I can earn a living or have the relationship I want. But I've gone about it in this really self limiting way. And then I have a little bit here in my notes about humility, because humility is a foundational aspect in many recovery programs, many 12-step programs. And a lot of people think humility is somehow limiting yourself or making yourself smaller, right? When you hear humility, it's like, oh, I have to be humble. I can't shine. I can't be the leader. I can't be in first place. I have to be humble. Humility is defined as a grounded and truthful acknowledgement of your limitations without diminishing your inherent worth. On the other hand, a limiting belief is false and distorted. It takes your limitations as evidence of your diminished self-worth or potential. And it's rooted in fear and conditioning, like Christina explained. Humility is more balanced, equally recognizing strengths and limitations, with the ego sort of set aside. Again, that truthful acknowledgement, right, of both strengths and limitations. And a limiting belief exaggerates limitations, often ignoring strengths. Going back to that confirmation bias, where we pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
the evidence that supports what we believe about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Humility leaves room for growth and learning. A limiting belief sort of implies failure just immediately without even trying. Humility is collaborative and expansive. It sounds like I don't know this yet, but I can learn. And a limiting belief leads to avoidance and discouragement, sounding like I'll never be good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Humility sounds like I'm open to learning. Other people know more about this. I'm new. I can learn from them. And the ego and self sabotage says, I'm not good at this right now, so I shouldn't even try.
Yeah.
And then I have some notes on also what self sabotage has looked like for me in my life. But first, I wrote down what self sabotage has not looked like. And it's not laziness, it's not intentional, and it's not a lack of willpower, because I'm not a lazy person and I don't consciously, intentionally do things to not reach my goals. And I have a lot of fire in my birth
Mm-hmm.
chart. I have willpower. So, what's really going on, and for me, often it's been a behavior relapse, which we've talked about before. Research consistently demonstrates that too much change too fast is likely to end without positive results, a behavior relapse.
And I think that that is very much the way that our culture tells us we should change, is that we do 7 things all at once.
Yes.
We start the new job, the new diet, the new workout routine while we just moved into a new house in a new town, all in the same week. That it is, we do everything all at once.
Right. So for me, in the past, in absence of self acceptance and self knowledge, or in other words, being true to myself, has contributed to my own self sabotage. So, one of my first steps in my journey was knowing what being true to myself meant. I needed to get to know and understand what was right and appropriate for me. I needed to define my own self care priorities. I needed to define what was important to me versus what had I picked up from other people sort of along the way as priorities. So I remember early in my spiritual journey reading books by different authors, and they all had different takes on what you needed to do each day. Meditate for an hour,
Right?
exercise first thing.
We're supposed to do everything first thing in the morning, all at the same time.
And I remember one day sort of writing down a list of if I did everything everyone told me to do every day for the length of time they told me to do it, it was going to take like 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what belongs to other people versus what do I actually need was really a big part of my spiritual journey in the beginning, because I needed to know and understand what was right and appropriate for me. And the other piece to that puzzle is What is my correct pace, my speed, not what hustle culture says, not what other people say, not what this 20-year-old Instagram influencer says. I also needed to know when to say no and when to say yes. I was saying yes a lot when I should have been saying no.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, an important foundation. Identifying your self-care priorities, your pacing, when to say no, when to say yes is sort of the foundation upon which you can start weeding out self-sabotaging behavior. And another piece, living from my thoughts and mind versus full and total embodiment. And this sort of ties into behavior relapse. So, when starting a goal or decision, which originates in our mind, if I have the thought of, I want to start this creative project, or I have a goal that I want to work out more often, those decisions, thoughts, goals could be the subject of self sabotage when it's not fully embodied because our nervous system perceives change as a danger or a threat. And that's often why we regress or self sabotage into comfortable and familiar behaviors and habits.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what we need is not more willpower or saying mean and nasty things to ourselves like, oh, why are you so lazy? Because I don't believe that it's those things a lot of the times. We need just to give ourselves more time and ways and strategies to integrate transformation in our mind and in our body. So you might wonder, where might I be self-sabotaging? Not because I'm broken or lazy or have no willpower, but because I'm moving too fast for my inner self to keep up. And somatics sort of comes into play. You know, Christina talked about changing our mind. Somatics is about the body. It's defined as ever relating to the body. Somatics is using the mind body connection to help survey your inner self and listen to signals from your body, paying attention to signals of pain, discomfort, or imbalance. So, limiting beliefs aren't just thoughts, they live in the body as muscle tension, contraction, postural habits, chronic holding, or energy withdrawal. So if you have a belief that sounds something like, I don't deserve to be seen, you may have slumped posture, shallow breathing, a tight chest, or other fawn like nervous system responses to match that belief or that thought.
Hmm.
You're physically becoming smaller and imperceptible to match that mental belief. Somatic practices help you notice patterns that thinking alone misses. So when I'm clenching my jaw, what is happening? And for me, usually my mind is in some kind of anxious or overwhelmed brainstorm where I'm trying to orchestrate too many things. When my shoulders tense up towards my ears, usually that's because I'm in an uncomfortable situation. Often these physical cues are more honest than your thoughts. They reveal where your physical body and your system does not yet feel safe to expand, speak, receive, or so on. As you develop your mind body connection and start learning to use your body as like a second brain, somatics can build your capacity to feel and sense alignment. And really importantly, when you're out of alignment, when you should be saying no to something, it will help you know your authentic pace and say no and yes with embodied congruence. Somatic practices strengthen, deepen, and cultivate the mind body connection by engaging in practices like body scan meditations, breath work, yoga, qigong. And you can also sort of use these journaling prompts, but we don't want to forget about the body when we're journaling and just stay in our mind. So these can maybe be themes or questions for like a body scan meditation. But questions like, what inside me is not a match for what I want? If you're thinking about a promotion or you really want a romantic relationship, but you find yourself not creating that reality, and you're like, you know what? I want to look at the potentials around limiting beliefs and what could be getting in the way on a more subconscious level. And you
Hmm.
want to practice somatics and see what's in the body, you could use that kind of question. And when you think about a relationship, do you feel tightness somewhere or pain somewhere? Do you feel maybe tightness in your hips? Do you feel a lump in your throat? Do you feel a stabbing pain somewhere? What inside me is not able to receive this reality? Or what in my body? Where in my body am I not able to receive this reality? And you're almost listening not to what your mind is giving you as the answer, but what your body is. And it takes practice, but you get curious about these sensations and you kind of examine them like a scientist. Is it moving? Is it still? Are there colors? What does it feel like? Where exactly do I feel it? And then I just have a few little astrological connections. Our friend Saturn, who we've been talking about a lot lately,
Saturn.
is one of the planets associated with limiting beliefs and self sabotage, as the planet representing the inner critic, inner authority, and earning love through effort. Pluto linked to shadow work, deep psychological processes, the underworld of the psyche, survival based programming, ancestral and lineage patterns and trauma held within the body. And then Chiron. Chiron represents sort of where our beliefs of inadequacy lie
Hmm.
and wounds that can cause self sabotage.
Hmm.
And then zodiac signs, Pisces represents self sabotage through things like addiction or escapism. And Virgo is sort of the perfectionist of the zodiac. So, this sort of paralysis, this paralyzing self doubt is very much a Virgo trait, um, where good enough isn't enough.
That's a big one. That's so fast to put the zodiac signs on there with this because we that energy um could be unbalanced at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the time of the year, but also depending on where the planets are in your personal star chart and where they are like in that present moment.
Well, I have 3 cards.
I need a message from the universe. I need some good news, universe.
So the cards today are from the Goddess Guidance Oracle deck by Doreen Virtue.
Well, this is the
So
deck
you
that I
will,
want to buy myself.
yes,
Do you remember we were talking about not using Amazon anymore? And one of the
yes.
techniques we read about was you just make a list of the things that you think you want to buy and then, you just decide if you still want it later on and then you just figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to buy it. So I've been making a list and my birthday is next month and I just realized I was making my birthday list.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Doreen Virtue cards are on it.
Well, this
I will
is,
find them. I'm going to find them and I'm going to buy them. I want them.
yeah, this one's really special to me. It was given to me, and it was the very, very first deck that I ever owned. So 3 cards, and card 1 is Ishtar, boundaries. Love yourself enough to say no to others' demands on your time and energy. A sincere desire to give of service is wonderful. However, there's a distinction between giving of yourself and giving up yourself. If you feel tired, guilty, or resentful while helping others, then you're not truly helping them, are you? You're injecting poisonous energies into the relationship, and then no one benefits. Step back and reassess the situation. As you respect your own boundaries, others will begin to recognize and respect them within you and within themselves as well. Now, that's a healthy behavior to teach to others. Various meanings: you're giving too much, become more assertive, don't do things out of guilt or obligation. About Ishtar, she's been worshipped and invoked since ancient Babylonian times as the embodiment of Venus's womanly energy. Ishtar represents the divine feminine in all of her aspects, including nurturing, mothering, sensuality, fertility, healing, protection, and wisdom. As a multidimensional goddess, Ishtar doesn't tire of helping the men and women who call upon her for assistance. Card 2, Abundantia. Abundantia. The universe is pouring its abundance out to you. Be open to receiving. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. You are very powerful, and I'm here to support your growing power. It's right for you to receive this help as we function as a team. I've heard your prayers, worries, and affirmations. I'm pouring my cornucopia of prosperity upon you now, so expect unforeseen windfalls and gifts. Notice the new ideas, feelings, and visions within you. This guidance gives you clear direction about actions to take in conjunction with my assistance. Together, we're unstoppable. Various meanings of this card: be open to receiving. A new windfall of money is coming to you. You have nothing to worry about. Your new venture will be financially successful. Visualize and affirm abundance. Abundance comes to you in many ways, including extra time, support, and ideas. About Abundantia. She is a beautiful Roman and Norse goddess of prosperity, success, and abundance who is said to bring good fortune and financial windfalls to all those who call upon her. She carries a cornucopia of golden coins, which trail behind her wherever she goes. One sign that she's with you is that you'll find lots of spare change in unlikely locations. And rest assured that she brings more than pocket money to those who call upon her. She bestows all kinds of prosperity, including increased amounts of time, ideas, and other forms of support. Yes, please.
I know, right?
And card 3, Bast, independent. Your independence is a foundation for your strength and success. Like the cat, you're fiercely independent, yet you also need affection and playful companions. Now is the time to balance your social interactions with solitude. While you may ask others for their opinions, ultimately you must make your own decisions. Your freedom and independence are top priorities, so ensure that these characteristics are nurtured. Various meanings of this card: spend time alone, give yourself permission to play, ask for your needs to be met, make your own decisions, work with cats, pay attention to your pet feline, and or get a new cat. About Bast. About Bast. The Egyptian goddess Bast transforms into a cat each night and protects her family and those who call upon her with all-seeing night vision. She exhibits the cat-like traits of the feminine, which include gracefulness, independence, playfulness, and intuition. Bast also works with cat lovers to help their feline companions. The daughter of the sun god Ra, Bast has the rare distinction of being both a moon and a sun goddess. And those were our messages today.
Thank you, universe. Thank you, goddesses.
And next week, we have invoking source. We're talking about prayer, mantras, affirmations, and then the following week, I'm really excited for the results of our 30-day affirmation challenge that we've been doing. So
I'm
we
not. I've
will,
had a challenging month.
well, I think what is the word I'm looking for? The setbacks
Oh, the
are,
opportunities for growth.
yeah, the Saturnian experiences of a setback are just as valuable, sometimes if not more.
I know. I just
So,
thought of something I wanted to write in my journal for that podcast. I was like, I need to keep a list of all the opportunities I've had in the past 2 weeks. So
yeah,
many opportunities for growth.
yeah. Well, we will be back with all that and more. And until then, we love you, listeners. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is The Radical Pod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.